Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our study of love. Still in chapter 2. What is love? According to 1 Corinthians 13, love keeps no record of wrongs. So, this should be a fun one. We're going to go to Genesis chapter 50, verses 15 to 21, and this is out of the New King James Version. When Joseph's brothers saw that their father was dead, they said, "Perhaps Joseph will hate us, and may actually repay us for all the evil which we did to him." So they sent messengers to Joseph, saying, "Before your father died, he commanded, saying, 'Thus you shall say to Joseph, I beg you, please forgive the trespass of your brothers and their sin, for they did evil to you. Now please forgive the trespass of the servants of the God of your father.' And Joseph wept when they spoke to him. Then his brothers also went and fell down before his face. And they said, 'Behold, we are your servants.' Joseph said to them, 'Do not be afraid, for am I in the place of God? But as for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, in order to bring it about as it is this day, to save many people alive. Now therefore do not be afraid. I will provide for you and your little ones.' And he comforted them and spoke kindly to them." All right. So for some background, Joseph's brothers had sold him into slavery. From there, he'd been used for the talents that God gave him to interpret dreams, and then he was accused of something that he didn't do that got him in prison again for a little while. He spent a lot of time in between. But eventually he rose up to a high position in the land. He was second only to the king. They had been cruel to him, but he had nothing but kindness for them. Even though they had wronged him, God used their betrayal to position Joseph to live up to his full potential. And that's for the calling that God had for him. Despite the turmoil he had been through, he was able to appreciate the situation for how it ended, not how it began. He practiced radical forgiveness, just as God has done for us through Jesus Christ. Yeah. That's some serious, that is radical forgiveness. After what he had been through. But that's a good lesson there, you know. It all ends, it is absolutely true, everything for your good, and it has absolutely ended in his good. You know, some people say, I wouldn't trade, as much as some of the lessons I've learned have hurt, I wouldn't trade them for anything, because then I wouldn't be who I am now. I myself recently have been through, not that severe, but something similar. A betrayal turned into a positive. Anyway, continuing. We're going to go to Proverbs chapter 20, verse 22, and this is in today's English version, or the Good News Bible. "Don't take it on yourself to repay a wrong. Trust the Lord, and he will make it right." All right? God promises justice. We do not need to seek it for ourselves. When we do it for ourselves, it's with wrath and vengeance, which aren't our place. They're for God to handle. But by us having patience and self-control, which are both fruits of the Spirit, which we'll talk about later, we'll be satisfied by the end results. You know, God demands justice. The universe demands balance. You know, whether you call it, you know, God's righteousness, karma, it's all the same thing. You know, I like to think of karma as, may you experience whatever you need to experience to give you the perspective you need to change that about yourself. That's how I look at it. Anyway, We're going to go to Proverbs chapter 24, verse 29. This is in the NIV, New International Version. Do not say, I'll do to him as he has done to me. I'll pay that man back for what he did. Basically a reiteration of what we had just talked about. Don't treat others how they treat you. Treat them based on your own character, right? What they do to you is a reflection of their character. What you do in return is a reflection of yours. So watch your reactions. Have some self-control. Pause before you react. Now we're going to go to 1 Peter chapter 3, verses 8 and 9. And this is in the CSB, the Christian Standard Bible. Finally, all of you be like-minded and sympathetic. Love one another, and be compassionate and humble, not paying back evil for evil or insult for insult, but, on the contrary, giving a blessing, since you were called for this, so that you may inherit a blessing. So, once again, it is reiterated that we should not treat others how they treat us, but to treat them with the love as we are commanded to. If we do not corrupt ourselves with wrath, we will better maintain our spiritual health to become more Christ-like and grow closer to Him by doing so. That in itself is the greatest reward. And we should not jeopardize it over petty earthly things. Be the better person and set an example to others. Be so loving that love is the only thing that can come back to you. Think about that one. All right. Speaking of thinking about things, here are our questions for reflection. There's another one that got 4 instead of 3. Question 29. Are you holding on to any grudges against others? Have relationships ended in your life because others have held grudges against you? Question number 30. Do you think there is a difference between holding a grudge and holding someone accountable for or protecting yourself from their patterns or destructive, harmful or behavior? If yes, how do you determine that difference? And don't just say discernment. That's a cop-out. Yes, it is. Discernment is the correct answer to that, but take it further. If you really stop and think about these questions, you will really do yourself a service. Like, that is the point of this study, is to provoke thought. What is the benefit, if any, of holding a grudge against anybody? In contrast, how can grudges be harmful? Question 32. Do you believe that there is a list of your sins and or wrongdoings that will be read at your time of judgment? If so, who would use that list? The judge, being God, or the opposition / adversary, being the devil? Some of us who know the story of Job know part of the answer to that. But you got to think about the other part. But that concludes this section. We're moving right along in this study, and I will see you in the next one.